what is exactly meant by the term sunnah, and what time did, or what is meant by the term fitna, excuse me, what is meant by the term fitna, and what year or what time did the fitna take place. Ibn Sirin, he says, when the fitna occurred, we said, Sammu lana rijalakum, name to us your narrators, tell us your men, tell us who you're bringing this information from, to the end of that narration, which he mentions that they would look towards the people of the Sunnah and their hadith would be accepted, and they would look towards the people of Bid'ah and their hadith would be rejected. And we also have the famous statement of Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, al-isnadu min ad-din, ولولا الإسناد لقال من شاء ما شاء وإذا قيل من حدثك بقي أو كما روي. Ibn al-Mubarak, he said, the isnad is from the religion. The isnad is from the religion. The isnad is something from the deen. It's something which is essential and crucial in the religion. If it wasn't for the isnad, he says, then anyone could say whatever he wanted to say. However, when you say to a person, man, who told you this? Baqiyah. Then it remains. And there are two main interpretations of the people of knowledge with regards to the last part of his statement, it remains. Some say what's meant is that the religion remains preserved. And others say, baqiya mutahayyiran, the one who narrates to you, if he doesn't have an authentic source, a reliable outlet for that information from someone who gave it to him, then baqiya, he remains confused and he has nothing to say. He'll stop narrating to you. No matter what is the case, this shows us is that there was questioning about the isnad, and this will be explained in detail, because this is something which is very crucial for us to understand. When was the isnad, when was the idea of the isnad instituted? When did they bring it up? When was it used? How was it used? When was it obligatory? When was it recommended? When was it on all fronts of the narration of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ? When was it used in certain instances? This will be explained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission when we have our separate lesson on the isnad and its history and its evolution. Right now, we just want the general point to prove one of the wellheads of the compilation of the Sunnah. The next point that we have is being careful and wary from narrating the Sunnah from weak narrators or weak reporters, and those who lie and forge reports from the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. The companions were very cautious, and this is similar to one of the points that we mentioned earlier, but it's a bit different. The first point, or the point that we mentioned earlier, was regarding themselves. This point is regarding others, other people that were weak, people that were liars, not from the companions, those who came after the companions. And the most famous example of this is the narration of Mujahid. May Allah have mercy upon him. When we had Bushayr al-Adawi, he says, I came to Ibn Abbas and I began narrating hadith to him. I began saying, Qala Rasulullah, the Messenger of Allah, he said this, he said that. He says, and I noticed that Ibn Abbas didn't pay me any attention. He didn't, show any concern to my hadith. He didn't allow me to narrate to him and him pay any attention. So I said, why aren't you telling me, or why aren't you listening to my hadith, Ibn Abbas? Are you displeased with all of them, or are you pleased with all of them? And then Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, he said that whenever a man said previously, kunna, whenever we heard a man saying, Qala Rasulullah, the Messenger of Allah said this, what Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma say, ibtadarathu absaruna. He says all of our eyes became focused on that man. They instantly were glued to him. Allahu Akbar. This shows us once again how diligent they were in listening and taking what the Messenger of Allah said. Anyone who came to them who said, Qala Rasulullah, ibtadarathu absaruna, they looked at him directly and instantly. وَأَصْغَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ بِأَذَانِنَا. He says, and we listened attentively. We listened. We paid close attention to when a person said, Qala Rasulullah. He said, فَلَمَّا رَكِبَ النَّاسُ الصَّعْبَ وَالذَّلُولِ. However, when the people began, and the literal translation says, when the people began to ride all types of camels, the easy camel and the difficult camel, the lenient, soft camel and the harsh, stubborn camel. Meaning, when the people begin to narrate from every single individual, this person, that person, no matter what, they just narrated from him. Once the people didn't make any distinction and any discernment between who they narrated from, he says, لم نأخذ من الناس إلا ما نعرف. Okay, my God. He says, we only took what we knew for sure from the people. Once the people began to just take from every single individual, we only took what we knew. So this is a major principle from the principles of the compilation of the Sunnah and from the sciences of Hadith and the terminology of Hadith, and being sure who you take information from. Who do you take this narration from? And not taking it from every single individual. And this applies to a person whose memory is poor. This applies to someone who is a liar. This applies to someone who is a person of outward innovations and cost innovations. This applies to a person who is a sinner and an evildoer. This applies to someone who is constantly accused and attacked with fahisha. This applies to all of these type of people, not one type of person, not one type of people. All of these different individuals, they fall under this one general scope, that you be careful in narrating from them. Ibn Abbas, he laid down this manhaj for his students, for the scholars of hadith who came after him. When the people rode all types of camels, they didn't care what type of camel they rode. They didn't care what type of person they took their knowledge from. Then we slowed down. Then we double checked. Then we only took that which agreed with and coincided with the information that we were sure of from the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam. And there are several other points during the time of the companions, radiallahu anhum, which is from the this great phenomena of the compilation of the Sunnah during their time, such as writing down the Sunnah, which is a very important point. Actually recording the Sunnah and putting it in writing, and this will be mentioned in detail in its proper time, bi'idhnillahi azza wa jal. Also is traveling to in search of hadith. The companions, they traveled to each other. They traveled to different countries and different lands to hear that which they didn't hear, to memorize, to double check what they had already heard from the Messenger of Allah directly, and that will be mentioned bi'idhnillahi azza wa jal in a separate point, inshallah. So these are from the main bullet points, if you want to say, from the main headings of what took place during the time of the companions radiallahu anhum with regards to the foundations of compiling and conserving the Sunnah. Now we want to speak about bi'idhnillah azza wa jal, traveling to seek hadith, and how important it was and essential in establishing the Sunnah and its preservation. And we'll say that the foundation of traveling to seek hadith, to seek knowledge in general, but to speak hadith specifically, what we're talking about now, is in the Quran. And that is in the story of Musa alayhi salam and his young servant, and how they traveled to Al-Khidr. They traveled to Al-Khidr, and there, by the way, just for information, just for sake of mentioning the information, the scholars differ over whether Al-Khidr was a prophet or whether he was a wali. There's some of the ulama, some of the people of knowledge who say that he was a nabi, that he was an actual prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and others say that he was from the pious chosen slaves of Allah azza wa jal who received some revelation. No matter what the case is, we know that Allah azza wa jal told us in Surah Al-Kahf that he ordered Musa to go to that man and to listen to him and to take the knowledge that Musa didn't have. Even though Musa alayhi salam was Kalim ar-Rahman, he was the one whom Allah ar-Rahman spoke to directly. He was from the Ulul Azm, the 5 major messengers. He was a major prophet of Bani Israel, and he received a book from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Torah. However, there was some information that Al-Khidr had that Musa alayhi salam did not possess, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to go and to travel.